Joy Holiday, streaming happiness 365 days a year.
Hello folks, and welcome to Joy Holiday family. Well, here we are in December and 'tis the season. So, the Christmas season is upon us, one of the best festive seasons of the year. Many people love to celebrate in many different ways. One of my favorite ways to celebrate, be it by myself or with friends or family, is by watching movies, which I love to do year round. But hey, 'tis the season for Christmas movies. So I'm gonna give you guys my personal breakdown of my top 5 favorite Christmas movies. Number 5, Home Alone Part 2, Lost in New York. Released in 1992, you know, for most of my childhood, this was absolutely my favorite of the Home Alone films. It brings back the McAllisters from the first movie. Also returning back is the Wet Bandits, played by Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern. You know, the film gets criticized for being very similar to the first movie. And I get it, that's a criticism a lot of sequels get. And in the beginning especially, it almost feels like the exact dialogue. But once the family separates at the airport when they're all heading to Florida and Kevin accidentally ends up on a plane in New York, then it's a whole different movie. And that's when the movie also starts to really find its own footing. Because you're not dealing with Kevin being home alone, you're dealing with him being alone in a brand new city that he's never been in. And the movie does a fantastic job of capturing New York at Christmas. You know, it's a beautiful montage. You know, as a kid and even today, when I watch movies, I love to put myself in character shoes. And so for Home Alone 2, it was just so much fun imagining being Kevin McAllister in New York, going to places he went in the city, staying at the Hoover Suite in a Ding Dang Dong Plaza Hotel, ordering limos to take you to the biggest toy stores in town, playing tricks on Tim Curry, a young Rob Schneider, and the whole hotel staff. However, what's also different about this one that I also find enjoyable is that it has a darker tone than the first one, because along with the fun of he's visiting a brand new city, he's 10 years old and alone in a brand new city. And there's a little danger to that. No one in the family can reach him, nor can he reach them. So it's a really scary moment. But then again, the hijinks come with Harry and Marv, and that puts the movie right on track for a whole other tone. One of my favorite personal highlights of the movie as well is the fact that when I was little and my siblings, we would be watching this movie, and my mom always hated all the violence in it. She'd always, oh, that's so bad and it's not even real, and they would get hurt so bad. But that brick throwing scene would get her laughing so hard every time, but never harder than the first time I can remember her seeing it. When I watch that scene today, it is very funny to me, and it'll always be funny to me, but I'm also laughing off of the nostalgia, the memory of my mom's laughter watching that scene for the first time. Like, it really took her out. As she says, even today, she was still embarrassed by how much she laughed at that scene, and I love that. It's been consistently in my top 5 for many reasons, but for me, it just gives you a fun story of being in a brand new place for Christmas. And I've traveled for Christmas before, and you know, I sometimes see myself when I am in a new place for Christmas as like a Kevin McAllister of sorts, just wandering about town trying to find my way and also trying to enjoy myself. And whether you're spending Christmas at home or in a new place, that should be the goal for everyone. And hopefully that can be done without you having to protect yourself from the wet or sticky bandit. Coming in at number 4, we have Elf. Elf, in my eyes, is a modern classic. I very much view it as the All I Want for Christmas Is You of holiday movies, wherein it's modern, but there's elements that's from the past that predates the time it was released. Specifically speaking to the stop motion animation from Christmas specials I grew up with, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Santa Claus is Coming to Town. The North Pole that Buddy comes from in this movie it's a direct tie-in to that land, and even having the snowman character, who was always one of my personal favorites of those stop motion movies. It's so cool to see when you grew up with those movies as a little kid, and then when this came out, I was 13, and it's like you're getting caught up. And I like the updates that they give the magic of Santa in this story. I really love Ed Asner's performance as Santa in this movie. He's actually, in this role, one of my favorite actors to play Santa ever. ever. I also really enjoyed James Caan's character as Buddy's dad, who's on the naughty list and has a knack for being a bit mean or stern. But I really like the way that is done with James Caan, because the meanness and sternness is quite subtle. He's quite even paced. You know, he's a modern day Grinch, but he plays it very mildly. He plays it very cool, which makes his transition in the end all the more sweeter and powerful. And talk about sweet and powerful. Will Ferrell's performance as Buddy the Elf. Man, Will sells every bit that he is the 6'4" elf. He is fully committed in every scene that he's in. My favorite scenes are where he has more calmer people to play off of his over-the-topness, like the scenes with his family, or his co-workers, or Zoe Deschanel, who ends up being his love interest. But one of my favorites that's actually very underrated, I love that his father's secretary reminds me of Adults Who Love Kids, where she's playing with him. She is having fun with him. She loves his energy too, and she's having a good time with him. I feel like that was very realistic. My favorite thing about this movie is there's a hidden message in the end that, you know, Santa's sleigh used to be powered by belief, and now they've had to find energy sources to, which is great, to make it run and make it fly without solely relying on the power of belief. But we end with having to rely again on that power and having to raise that power. And you know, I'm a believer in the power of belief. And I think that that's a really cool, no matter where you stand on belief, I feel like it was a fun tool to use in telling this story and in that beautiful ending that we got in it. Number 3, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Okay, so here's the deal. For a kid, Christmas isn't real until it's Christmas Vacation. That's when it is serious business. It is right around the corner. It is next week. We are counting down for real. It's coming. It's almost here. And I feel like the movie really captures that feeling too. The film is easily as packed with just as much excitement, in my opinion, as the real countdown to Christmas. This is one of those movies where I would honestly say every scene has an iconic comedic moment, starring Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo once again reprising their roles as Clark and Ellen Griswold. Again, this is another story where Clark W. Griswold is just out to give his family the best experience. Things really kick into high gear when the grandparents come. You see, it's Clark's idea that for this holiday season, he wanted all 4 of the grandparents, his parents and his wife's parents, to stay in the house with them. Doesn't that sound so peaceful? The scene where they first get there is really perfect. The moment where they answer the door and the relatives rush in, and it's all the ketchup, it's all the hugs and kisses and pinching the cheeks. You instantly feel that out-of-town relative overload that is so real, especially when you're a kid. After that, you have one debacle after another. Between the lights, the sledding, the Christmas dinner. Of course, there's the annual boss kidnapping and the traditional family favorite of the squirrel in the house because he was in the tree. But yeah, this is really a staple that I can't see not being in my top 3 of favorite Christmas movies every year. I really, really enjoy this movie. This is a movie I did not grow up watching it year round, but I could have. Number 2, A Christmas Story. I know. It gets played a lot. It gets played so much. It's marathon on a few networks. There's all kinds of merchandise. It is used for a ton of commercials. It's been turned into a stage play, into a musical stage play. It got a direct-to-video sequel. It's a lot. But it's kind of understandable, and in my opinion, it kind of deserves it. I feel like I was one of the lucky ones, though. When I was renting this movie with my family on VHS, it felt like nobody else knew about it. I remember talking about this movie with my friends, and maybe 1 or 2 other people knew what I was talking about at first. But then it's like every year, more and more people started stumbling onto it, and then when it started getting replayed a lot, then more and more people started knowing it and talking about it and referencing it. Then you got times where people didn't want to talk about it and reference it because it's on so much. But it's understandable considering how special this movie is, how timeless it is. Even though it takes place in the year 1940, it captures in many ways the timeless essence of being a kid. I love the way it plays with Ralphie's imagination. It shows the roles your friends play in your decision making as a kid, the anxiety about getting in trouble in the seconds before you do what it is you're about to get in trouble for, the fear of being near that neighborhood bully. My personal favorite of Ralphie's imagination is Ralphie turning in a report that is so good in his teacher's miserable life of grading papers that she had to graffiti the walls with the A pluses. That was a personal dream of mine that I held on to my entire school life and did not come true. No. But though some things like that are timeless, I also, on the other end, like things that capture the era as well. In Christmas 1940, the grandfather I grew up with ate. So it was great seeing him have a kind of relatable experience to that timing. Love the little glimpses of that era. The catalogs, the Ovaltine, the oven, the stove, the cars. My favorite that also relates to my grandfather is his excitement over the Little Orphan Annie radio show. That was a show he listened to as a kid. It just really immerses you. It really puts you in there. You feel, I don't know about you guys, but I have memories of my mom dressing me in the snowsuits, and when I see the scene where Ralphie's mom is putting the little brother in all the layers, it makes me think of that. I remember what that feels like from the kid's angle. It really paints the picture of what it was like to be a kid at Christmas. For those of us who grew up celebrating Christmas, those feelings are universal and are timeless. That is why A Christmas Story is timeless and is always going to be a favorite of mine. And here we have it, number one. My favorite Christmas movie of all time is the original 1990 Home Alone. It's pretty easy to figure why this one I'd call my favorite of the Christmas movies. It's been a part of my entire life. My siblings and I, we watched it year round. And that was easy to do because not only did we have it in our household, but it's like every family member had a VHS copy of it. And if there was nothing to watch, we'd want to watch Home Alone. I honestly, to this day right now, have no memory of a Christmas in my life without the movie Home Alone in it. I am as old as Home Alone, so again, it's essential for me. Also understandable to see why it's enjoyable year round, because it's a very good movie regardless of the season. In this movie, we're watching young 8-year-old Kevin McAllister learn the secret of handling fear, facing it every single step of the way. He was afraid of the heater in the basement, he faced it. A very valid fear, I'd like to point out too, that some of us kind of had in our childhood about basements and water heaters that made weird sounds. So I never faulted him on that fear. Seemed very rational to me. He was afraid of the neighbor who there were rumors spread all about, and he faced that fear by talking to him, having a conversation, getting to know the neighbor. He was afraid of Harry and Marv and showed them why they should be afraid of him. Something else that's consistent about Home Alone Part 1 and 2, beyond the hijinks, something that I feel continuously gets overlooked through the years in talking about these movies is the performance of Catherine O'Hara. And because of her recent movies and TV shows, she's been getting a whole lot of respect and praise for the comedic genius that she is and always has been. You know, people forget she started with John Candy, who's also in Home Alone, during Second City in the 1970s. However, Home Alone 1 and 2 showcases her in roles that are different from much of her career or much else that she's known for. In both movies, she really captures the depiction of a mom juggling it all and is genuinely heartbroken and scared that her youngest son is far away from her all alone. In part 1 especially though, you get fantastic little dramatic moments with her that really sells you on what she's going through. That kind of desperation to just make sure everything's okay and that this kid is gonna be alright. You know, today we all have cell phones, we all have social media, but seriously, everyone, take a minute and think about the fact that she went multiple days being on the other side of the world from her 8-year-old son who is all by himself at home. and there was no contact with him within that time. And then in part 2, he's lost in New York, and you know even less. At least with home, you can call the house phone, but she didn't know where he was staying in New York, and she sold that fear. She sold the seriousness of those situations both times and in both films. And one of my favorite moments of the first movie is the initial moment, her and Kevin seeing each other for the first time after all those days separated, and after all those obstacles she faced to get back home to him. And her look when she sees him is so fantastic. I still get goosebumps every time that moment comes. And even as a kid, I could always feel that. She sold it so well. Catherine O'Hara is a fantastic actress. Home Alone just will always be a very special movie for me and always hold a special place in my heart with them. But all in all, these are my top 5 favorite holiday movies. But what are yours? We here at Joy Holiday Family would love to see them. So leave them in the comments. So please go ahead and like and subscribe our videos, share them, and hey, get the conversation going. Let's all talk about our favorite holiday movies, you know? The movies that make us the most excited, that bring back the best memories. So again, thank you so much for watching. My name is Jarryl, and on behalf of Joy Holiday Family, have a happy holiday.